Hello everyone, welcome to Knowledge India once again. In this particular video, we'll talk about Cloud FinOps. We'll get started and we'll try and understand what FinOps is, how is it becoming really important for all the organizations who are using cloud. If you are totally new to this video will set the stage for you to understand that why is it really important, and then in the upcoming videos we will explain that what are the different parts of it and how you should go ahead and learn FinOps in a structured manner. You can go ahead and check this, that FinOps is something which is quite in demand. So as we move ahead, there will be more and more demand for people who have FinOps knowledge. So that's the intention of starting this particular series of videos. So why should you watch this particular video? Because you can go ahead and save some money on cloud. If you're using cloud, you can save some money and make your boss happy, really, right? So let's start this with a story which you might know. So there is a famous personality on internet, right, whom you would have seen. Mostly this fellow appears on LinkedIn, and this fellow is in bad situation, and when his friend asks what's the reason, why are you in such a bad situation, this fellow says that I left an EC2 instance on, and because of that a lot of bill came, and that's why I became poor. So what happens after that? The friend suggests, oh, why are you using EC2 instance? Next time go ahead and use serverless, right? You can go ahead and use AWS Lambda, because with AWS Lambda you pay only for what you use, right? So there's no chance that you're just leaving an instance running. Quite cost effective, isn't it? So this fellow listens to that, becomes happy, goes back and starts using Lambda. What happens after that? After a few days they meet again, same place, same park, and again this fellow is sad. Again our friend asks, what happened? Why are you still sad? What happened now? So any guesses? What went wrong? So this time our talented friend here actually deployed a recursive Lambda function, right? Some of you might say, oh, now AWS prevents that. So actually this story happened like 3 weeks back. At that time probably that feature was not there, right? The moral of the story here is that along with the capabilities of a cloud service, what all a cloud service can do, along with that you also need to understand that what are the pricing factors for that service, on what all factors you get charged. If you understand that, you'll be able to model your resources well, you'll be able to use your resources well, you'll be able to configure them right. So it's very important to understand the pricing of each and every service. I've talked about this many times. People generally just try to learn the functionality or how to go ahead and use a particular cloud service. That's what they generally spend time on. They do not get into understanding the pricing. So it's very important that you understand all the factors around pricing of a particular cloud service. So let's now talk about FinOps. So I'm sure you would have heard the term FinOps, but before we define it here really, let's understand what's the difference in pricing model, right, on cloud in comparison to on-premises data center. In your data center, the amount which you could spend was limited, or it was kind of fixed, right? For example, you can, if you go ahead and request for a server, you get that server, there's a fixed size for that server, right? Even if you scale things and there's some automated mechanism, there is a limit to which you can scale. But on cloud, it is a completely variable spend, right? Which means there is actually no fixed cost. You go ahead and you have an AWS account, you don't run any resources in that account, there is no bill. But if you go ahead and actually launch a lot of resources, then you get a very really a big bill, right? So the point is that somebody can actually go ahead and just create resources very quickly on cloud and actually increase your bill amount. So it's a variable spend model. Think about it like like your postpaid phone with no upper limit. You can go ahead and keep spending and you'll get the bill at the end of the month, right? Though there are mechanisms to alert you, etc. Like you can set up some sort of alarms which will tell you that, see, you have spent this much amount. You can do that, and that's a good idea. You should actually go ahead and set up billing alarms in your account. If any of you haven't set up billing alarms in your account, please go ahead and do that, so that you get alerted when certain amount has been spent. And that way, if it is unintentional, then you can go ahead and take some action. But the point is, think about it at an enterprise level. In a big organization, there are so many people working, so many people have got access to actually go ahead and create resources on cloud, and they can go ahead and just launch resources, and it can actually, increase the overall bill amount really, really quick. So that's first problem, or the difference which people need to understand, that it's a variable model. So it ties to the second question, which is who controls or affects the amount spent for an application on cloud, right? If you're deploying an application on cloud, who actually, affects the amount which you're spending? There are four options here: business application owner, application architect, application developer, or the central FinOps team. What do you think? Which two of these actually affect or control the amount which you spend on an application? Pause for a few seconds and think about it, and write down below if you want. So the answer for that is application architect and app developer. They are the two folks here, or people who actually affect the amount or the money spent the most. Business application owner can talk about, yes, these are the functionalities or features we want. Now, implementing those functionalities or features is something which is first finalized or designed by the architects. The type of decisions which the architect makes, that decides that what type of services get used and what configuration they get used. And then in order to develop that application and then deploy it and run it, how well it is being done, that is controlled by the application developers, right? So out of these two people actually affect the cost a lot. So you need to understand that in the cloud world, a lot of cost is actually controlled by these people. If they do the right thing, the cost would be low. If they are not disciplined and they don't do the right thing, the cost can really go high. So how does then FinOps help? What's FinOps? FinOps is really, it's just combination of two words, finance plus DevOps, right? So what it does is it basically stresses on the collaboration between business, engineering, and the finance teams. It talks about using unit economic metrics to enable data-driven decision. What does that mean really? What's unit economics, right? Unit economics is basically figuring out why a particular amount has been spent. Or think about it this way: in order to achieve this feature, how much money has been spent? For example, you have an application in your organization, and now a new feature has been requested. So in order to develop that new feature, how much money did we spend, right? And then going ahead and even breaking it to a very, very granular level. I can say that we spend, let's say, 20K to develop this new feature, but on which services did we actually spend that 20K? Whether that 20K got spent on compute, on databases, on S3 bucket, on some SQS SNS, or on what, right? So, and further, you can even think at this level that in order to develop this feature, how much money did we spend in the development environment, how much in the test environment, and so on and so forth, right? So FinOps as a practice actually stresses on this collaboration between business teams, engineering teams and the finance teams, and it ensures that the fine-grained data about your cloud spend is available to everyone. What's the end goal of doing all of this? Many other times people just think that FinOps is all about cost optimization. No, that's not the case, right? It is not just about saving cost all the time. Of course, saving cost is an important thing within FinOps. Nobody wants to just waste money, right? Nobody wants to waste money. So yes, we will go ahead and save cost, and we always talk about different ways in which you can go ahead and save money while using different AWS services, right? That's a part. But that's one part. But over and above that, FinOps is more about achieving 100% cost attribution. Think about it. There's a big enterprise. They're spending a lot of money, hundreds or thousands of dollars every month. But whether the leaders in that organization are able to really understand that for what purpose each and every dollar is getting spent. When I'm saying each and every dollar, don't think that there will be a line item for every dollar. But the point is that are they able to see it at a granular level, that the money which is being spent, this is getting spent on which service, or on what feature of what service, in which environment, up to that level, are they able to see it or not, right? That's what is cost attribution. Attributing the money, like let's say if X amount is spent, on what thing it got spent. We can always say it at a very high level, right? For example, we can say it at a very high level of a business unit, or of a particular application level. At a very high level, we can say this much money was spent. But are we able to break it down to a very, very granular level or not? Because if you are able to go ahead and break it down to the granular level, then you will be able to find out all the leakage, where all money is getting wasted. You'll be able to figure out. There will be resources which actually people won't be using or would be unnecessarily running, and its cost is coming in. Its cost looks like as if it is a real usage, but actually it is just a waste, right? So think about it. Like an example could be a product owner or a BU head should be able to say clearly that, like, we spent X dollars to build a feature which brought back Y dollars in the revenue. So for any business, spending money is generally not a problem. What they are worried is about that if I'm spending X amount, how much money I'm getting back. So there's no great thing that you go ahead and build a great product by spending a lot of money, but that product doesn't bring in revenue. So from the point of view of any business, they'll always see that, okay, we are building this new app or new feature in the app. For that, how much money are we spending? And then how much revenue comes back. So how much revenue is coming back, they'll always measure. Business will measure and tell you that thing. But how much money did you spend in order to build that new feature? If you are not doing FinOps properly, then you will not be able to tell the cost for that new feature separately. And if you are not able to tell the cost for that new feature separately, your leaders won't be able to really measure that whether it makes sense or not to build that feature, right? So it's very important that you are applying FinOps practices. We'll talk about it just in a minute, what all you can do, right? So just to summarize this particular point, leaders are actually dependent on their teams, to operate within reasonable budgets. When a financial year starts, a leader might be having some budget, but let's say if their teams actually go ahead and become irresponsible or indisciplined, they can go ahead and create really big resources and do not turn it off when they are not using. And what happens because of that? money wastage, right? So cost efficiency is actually a KPI for everyone who is using cloud. Anybody who has rights or who has capabilities or permissions to create any resource on cloud should have cost saving or cost efficiency as a KPI. So what are those new ways of working, or what should we do in order to do the whole FinOps thing? I mean, it's a long topic, and what we want to do is we want to talk about it progressively, one after another in every video. But there are just few quick things which teams can start following. Establish a self-governing, cost-conscious culture within your team, right? So many of the times the development teams who are working hard on building a new application, they are only focused about delivering their application. They do not take care of the cloud resources. For example, there might be a big database instance in the development environment which is not getting used fully, but they are still running a big database instance. Even though it is possible to have an RDS instance stopped in the night, you can go ahead and stop your RDS instance during the night time, in your development environment. But let's say just because of indiscipline, or because people don't care about it, they don't stop it. So that leads to a lot of money wasted. So we need to have that culture within every team that we need to save money on the cloud resources, right? So being accountable for the cloud cost, that's very important. Everyone takes ownership of their cloud usage. That means architects need to take better decisions while finalizing application architecture, and at the same time engineers or developers need to take ownership of the cost of services they use, right? It's not just about that I'm a developer, I'm just worried about building the new feature, I don't care that what resources I'm creating while I'm doing the development, right? If I have the rights to create a resource, then I need to be careful, and I need to take charge of using that cloud resource in the right manner. Everyone should get access to the cloud cost reports. It is very important. Anybody who is working on cloud should be able to go ahead and see the cost reports. How will you do that? You can go ahead and get started with AWS Cost Explorer reports. So if people actually go ahead and look at these reports, they'll be able to understand, they'll be able to take right decision that how much money I'm spending, am I getting right value out of it or not, right? You can go ahead and check, let's say, on an hourly basis how much money you are spending. So for example, you go and check in Cost Explorer how much is your spend of the development environment in weekdays, and then how much is the spend on weekends, right? It can show you hourly data. So based on that, you can understand that whether your team is actually following the right practice of stopping the resources or not over the weekends and during office shutdown hours in the night. So you can check such things. AWS also gives you something called Anomaly Detection. So you can ask your teams to go ahead and set up their email notification for such anomalies. So system can tell them that such type of anomaly has happened. Let's say a machine gets created which is like quite big and against the regular pattern. So system will alert you that something out of the pattern has happened today, right? So you can at least review it and then decide whether it's okay or you need to go ahead and take some corrective action. FinOps function it's like security function, right? It's not that a central team will come and do the FinOps for you. A central team can give you suggestions, but each and every application team or development team is responsible to look at the reports, to follow the suggestions, and make this whole cost optimization as a KPI for themselves, really, so that it becomes part of their day-to-day working. The last thing would be there are certain things which can be done by the central team. For example, doing reservations, savings plans, discussing the discounts, etc., can be done by the central FinOps team in your organization. But doing the right sizing, using the resources in an optimal manner, those are the things which stay with the development team only. So you need to really build this culture. You need to tell your development teams that yes, on one hand we have to go ahead and build great products, but at the same time saving money is also very, very important. So in summary, what we wanted to drive from this particular discussion was that on cloud, it is really important for all the teams which are actually creating resources or who can create resources on cloud to be careful about using cloud resources, and they should be using it in the right manner. There are a lot of things about saving cost. We will talk about it in the upcoming videos, but it's important to understand that as part of FinOps, your goal is to be able to attribute each and every dollar which is spent, to the right place. And how do you do that? A big role is played by tagging. So in our next video, we'll talk about tagging in detail. If you want to watch that, if you'd be interested, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you get notified, and we'll meet you in our next video, which will be about tagging strategy. All right. So if you liked it, please go ahead and share it with someone. Thanks for watching. We'll meet you very soon.